Hello everyone, welcome to ABC Interactive English. Here we are in the middle of our 3-day article about food education. So yes, that means it is part 2. We learned that governments around the world and schools as well are trying to educate their kids about better food knowledge, food safety, farming production, cooking skills, all sorts of good stuff. We mentioned also yesterday that when we were kids, we didn't get a lot of this food education. I remember being taught to make a cake in about grade 2 or grade 3. Yeah. That was about it. But then I also remembered we did go on a field trip. This was more about food production. We went to a farm when we were kids. Yeah, this was when I was in England. I don't remember much about it. I remember the pigs smelled real bad, and one of my classmates got kicked by a horse or a cow, which was pretty funny. They didn't get hurt, so don't worry. So I don't know what we learned about food education, but it was still a fun experience. How about you? Did you ever do that?
We went to a farm too. I think we saw a lot of sheep. But at school, we did have an organic garden, and we grew tomatoes, and I think we grew, what else did we grow? We grew maybe like apples or something. So we did actually use some of the food that we grew, some fruits, and then we did make something.
Okay, in your
home
school,
economics class.
And your school actually had apple trees there in the garden.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so there you go. Learning about gardening either at school or at home. You can garden at home too. It's a great way to learn about food production and what fun it would be to take your fresh tomatoes or your apples right into the kitchen, make a salad, make an apple pie. That would be good fun too. Food skills, food education, farming, all sorts of good stuff to learn. And we're going to learn more about this important topic in today's article. So let's check it out.
In the U.S., schools use a farm-to-school method. They buy fresh food from local farms for their cafeterias. Students also go on field trips to the farms. In some areas, U.S. students learn to garden too. When they grow their own fruits and vegetables, they respect food more. They also make an effort not to waste it.
All right, so it's time to start our article, learning everything about food with food education. Let's see what the article's going to tell us today. It says, in the U.S., schools use a farm-to-school method. Oh, interesting. So yesterday, of course, we learned about the UK, about what they're doing in Britain to educate young people about food and stuff like that. In the US, though, in America, they said schools use a farm-to-school method. Cool. This is interesting because this term we often see as farm-to-table or farm-to-restaurant, meaning basically you buy it almost from the farmer. This isn't food that's shipped from around the world. This is food that's probably grown in a local area. So it's trying to make the food production in a local area go to the homes and the tables and the kitchens in the same local area. Better for farmers, healthier for people. So farm to school would be the same idea. It explains they buy fresh food from local farms for their cafeterias. So not frozen food, not processed food that comes in a bag or a can from a factory, not food sent from all around the world, which of course is not so good for the environment. This is fresh food from local producers, local farmers.
Yeah, so fresh is an adjective, and that just means that it's picked right from the farm and shipped right to the school. So when something is made fresh, it's new. It's like, oh, I just cooked something for you. You have to eat it while it's fresh, so eat it before it goes cold. And if vegetables are fresh, that means we picked them today and they're at your home, or they're at the farmer's market or the supermarket on the same day. Well, supermarket food most likely is not that fresh because you can put it for days and days and it's packaged. And so we do love fresh food and fresh organic vegetables especially. So if the schools are getting fresh food, then the kids are going to be healthier. Okay, the next sentence says, students also go on field trips to the farms. And we mentioned field trips before.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we talked about the field trips that we used to go on. We went on a field trip or two to farms when we were kids, but often as a student in school, you will go on field trips to many other places. A field trip is basically when students, probably we're talking about elementary, junior high, senior high students, this kind of thing. They'll spend a special day out of class, they'll get on a bus,
so fun.
they'll go somewhere with a teacher or two to maybe a museum or a farm or some kind of interesting place where the
Amusement park.
Amusement park, maybe if your school's really cool. And you go to this place and basically you learn things, you have fun. For students, it's kind of like a day off school because you don't have to go to your regular classes. Maybe you'll have to do a little quiz to show that you were paying attention. But basically, it's when the school takes a group of students out of the school to another place to have a fun day of education and also entertainment. All right, back to the article. It says in some areas, U.S. students learn to garden too. So yeah, you'll learn about farming and food production on a field trip to a farm, but an even better way to learn about food production and growing food is to garden yourself in a garden.
Yes, and here garden is a verb, so you can garden in a garden. And garden means to grow vegetables or fruits or flowers. So you're learning how to plant the seeds in, what you have to do with the soil and what type of sunlight or water conditions, and you're just growing the things and watching them bloom. And gardening is a really great experience, and it develops a lot of patience as well.
Yeah, it's probably more of a hobby, right, than a job. If you're doing it on a big scale, of
Then
course,
you're a farmer.
that would be farming.
Yeah.
If you're doing it on a small scale, in a small area, you're gardening. And of course, people also garden flowers, things that they don't eat. You just like to work in the dirt on your day off, and you like to garden.
When they grow their own fruits and vegetables, they respect food more. They also make an effort not to waste it. So this is talking about how when you grow something and you watch it come out from the dirt, you're not just going to take it and then eat it and then throw the rest away. You really treasure every little tomato that came out of the ground because you watered it and watched it grow. And so you have more of a relationship with it, and then you respect it more.
Yeah, and to respect something is to kind of understand how important it is and pay sort of attention to that, to sort of be thankful for that in some kind of way. When we respect things, we don't just think that they're going to be there all the time and we don't pay any attention to them or anything like that. We understand how important and valuable they are. Exactly. We should respect our parents, we should respect our friends, we should respect other people. And also we can respect things, like, for example, when the power goes out, suddenly you might respect how great it is to have electricity in your house all the time, because right after a typhoon, if you have no electricity, you can't watch TV, you can't plug in your phone, you can't turn on the air conditioner, you can't turn on lights. So suddenly you're like, oh, I'm so thankful for electricity. I will never just sort of think it's going to be there all the time. I really respect it now. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with more about food education around the world.
Japan even has a law on food education. Students can't skip breakfast, and they need to avoid convenience store and fast food. Students are leading healthier lives thanks to good food education.
All right, so the next sentence talks about another country that teaches about food. That's Japan. Japan even has a law on food education.
Wow.
Wow, so a law is something that the government gives out.
Yeah, basically a law is a rule from the government. This is something that all people in the country
have to do.
Not only people who live there, but people who are visiting as well, tourists. You must always follow the law.
Ooh,
so if you
what
think
is the
about
law?
the rules at your home or the rules at your school, well, laws are just like that, except they're a little more serious. And if you break a law, it's kind of like breaking a rule, but you'll be in much bigger trouble. Not just your parents or teachers will be upset with you, the police and the courts and the judges would be upset with you too. Laws are made by politicians and government. We elect them, they make laws, and hopefully the laws are there to make our lives better and safer and things like
us.
Yeah, protect us from dangers. Of course, recently we've had laws about quarantine and COVID and wearing masks in certain places. These were made to protect people and keep them healthy. The law in Japan. So it's not just the schools that are saying, we want to teach our kids more and better information about food. No, it's the government for the whole country. So it's kind of showing how important they think food education is. They've made a law for the whole country about it. Here's one part of the law. It says students can't skip breakfast. And they need to avoid convenience store and fast food. So those are some of the rules in Japan. I guess some kids, they do skip breakfast, especially in high school, right? They'd rather sleep in than have breakfast. But you gotta have breakfast because it gives your brain fuel to go to school and to learn things until lunch. And also it's good for everyone, not just students, but young people are growing and they need healthy food. But it's really good for everyone to avoid junk food and convenience store food and, processed packaged food like that. But yeah, whatever you do, try not to skip breakfast.
Okay, so we have the verb skip, which means to cross over something and not do it. So when we're talking about skipping breakfast, it's waking up 10 minutes too late and not eating anything and just going right to school. So we're skipping it. So other things that can be skipped, well, some people skip class as students, so they don't go to class. Or they might say, I'm going to skip, what else can you skip?
You could skip all sorts of things.
Things skip work.
Things you don't want to do. For example, if you don't like doing it, you're like, I'm not going to do that. But you should. That's the idea here. So if you skip something like a dentist appointment, you might have dirty teeth. If you skip studying for an exam, you might get a bad mark. But if you skip dessert after dinner, well, that might be a good idea if you're on a diet, right? Everyone's having dessert. You're like, nah, I don't think I'll have any pie. I'm going to skip dessert. Or
avoid sugar.
You might want to avoid dessert too altogether. Now, skip and avoid, they're similar, but skip is really kind of a one-time thing. I'm not going to do this one time. I might normally do it, but this time I won't. Avoid is more like I just don't do this thing and I don't want to do this thing. I know that this thing is out there. I know other people are doing it, but I'm going to stay away from something like that. These days, with people worried about COVID-19, they've been avoiding going to crowded places, going to movie theaters, going to places where people might be eating without a mask.
Oh, yeah.
If you think that's a dangerous place or a place you don't want to be, you will stay away from that place by changing your behavior, by making different decisions. We can, of course, anytime go and buy junk food or buy a bag of chips at the convenience store, but if you're on a diet, if you're watching what you eat, if you're trying to be healthy, you should make decisions and do things in your life so that you don't go to those places. If your friends are going there, say, well, I'll just eat an apple. I don't want to have any French fries. I'm avoiding junk food.
Yes, and the next sentence says, students are leading healthier lives thanks to good food education. So when somebody leads a healthier life, that means they're going to take action and do it themselves because they have good information. So we have here the word lead, which is a verb.
Yeah, we often use lead when talking about a way of doing something or a certain kind of life. For example, to lead a healthy life means you think about your health quite a lot. You exercise a lot. You watch what you eat. If you lead a lazy life, well, that means you probably don't go to work as much, you stay in bed, you watch too much TV or something like that. If you lead a life of crime, that means you've always been in trouble with the police. You steal, you rob, you do bad things, you commit crimes. So when we lead a life, that's basically to live, but what kind of life? That's how we often use this verb. Lead a adjective kind of life. All right, so there we are. We're at the end of day 2 of our article. This is the end of the article part of our unit for this month. So tomorrow we're going to have a little dialogue about some people talking about food knowledge and good health and all sorts of stuff like that. So come back and check it out with us. Until then, be well, eat well, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
U.S., schools use a farm-to-school method. They buy fresh food from local farms for their cafeterias. Students also go on field trips to the farms. In some areas, U.S. students learn to garden too. When they grow their own fruits and vegetables, they respect food more. They also make an effort not to waste it. Japan even has a law on food education. Students can't skip breakfast, and they need to avoid convenience store and fast food. Students are leading healthier lives thanks to good food education.
Hello， 大家好，我是维尼，一起来学今天的4个单字。首先呢是 fresh 形容词，新鲜的。The seafood from the market by the harbor is really fresh. Harbor 呢是名词，海港。海港市场的海鲜非常新鲜。第二个呢是 garden 动词，种植作物，从事园艺。She was gardening the whole weekend. 她整个周末都在做园艺工作。第三个字是 respect 动词，尊重。有时候呢，你与别人持不同的意见的时候，你可以跟他说 We might have different points of view, but I respect your opinion. Point of view 呢就是观点，看事情的角度的意思。我们可能有不同的观点，但是呢，我尊重你的意见。最后是 law 名词，法律。Shooting birds is against the law. 射击鸟类是违法的。接着来看看用语咯。首先大家都很喜欢的 go on a trip 游览旅行，文中的 field trip 就是校外教学。We are going on a trip to Japan next week. 我们下周要去日本旅行。接着是 make an effort 努力。那 effort 呢是名词，努力还有尽力。I can tell you really made an effort to improve your English skills. 我看得出来你真的很努力，要让你的英文进步哦。最后是 somebody leads a 或是 somebody leads an 加形容词 life， 某人过着怎么样的生活。lead 看一下三态是 lead, led, led。是动词，使过某种生活的意思。My cousin leads an interesting life. 我的表弟过着很有趣的生活。好，今天就到这边，记得多复习哦。
Hey everyone, I'm Iyin.
I'm Stephen.
And today we're playing a game called Word Drop, where we have different words or phrases on these cards that we've never seen before, and we're going to casually work them in sentences, aren't we?
Okay.
Okay, I will go first.
Okay.
That's all right with you. Okay. I love driving. I remember when I got my car at 16, my mom bought me this like really nice Ferrari, and it was red and it had like it was convertible, so I could like push back the roof, and it was so nice to drive to school. But then one day I ran a red light and I was stopped by the cop, and he said that I had broken the law.
Oh man, you should really drive carefully because it's always bad to do anything that is breaking the law. We should all do our best to abide by those rules given to us by the government. Sometimes it's very easy to just follow the rules, but sometimes it's really hard because you might not know you're breaking the law, and then you just really have to make an effort not to break the law.
Yes,
Yeah.
I very much agree. One of the things that I love to do in order to keep me on the straight and narrow, on a good straight and narrow path, is to grow my own vegetables. Yeah, I love vegetables. I love cruciferous vegetables. I'm not a big fan of nightshade vegetables, but I love it when you can go to the garden and pick your own vegetables because they're so fresh.
I mean, I guess I can understand that. Actually, I don't really understand people that love gardening. To me, it's kind of boring. But, everyone's different. Everyone has different hobbies. I like to draw and I like to make clay figurines. And I'm sure you might not understand that. But I think it's quite important that everybody enjoys what they do and then try not to judge others for what they like to do. I'm trying not to judge you for liking gardening. So I just have to really try to find ways to respect you.
Okay, hope you're not throwing any shade. It felt a little shady over there, but we'll just ignore that. I can't wait for things to finally start like opening up and the world to kind of like open up and be exciting again. One of my favorite destinations on my like bucket list is to travel and to go on a trip to Istanbul.
Well, when you go to Istanbul, maybe you can go and like figure out what they like to do there for gardening, since that's something that you enjoy doing. Maybe they grow different vegetables and stuff. You know what? Maybe I should just go and learn gardening. Maybe I should just go and garden. I think that I should just try to be you and garden all day.
Yeah, you can come over. I've got a little patch in front of my house, you know.
See you next time.